Coach Ryan here with Project Fresh. How's it going? So last week for our Monday Lunch Live, we talked about how uh, making adjustments were necessary. We were talking about how what's today, the 19th? So that was the 12th. We had just gotten past the National Quitters Day and the second Friday of January. And here we are now, about 11 days away until February, believe it or not. January is seemingly working its way out as fast as it came for 2026. So, yeah, as far as that goes, we're going to talk about how adjustments aid consistent progress. We've made the adjustments, and now we want to double down on them. So, my name is Ryan Sanders with Project Fresh. And for over the last 13 years, I've helped people take control of their health, optimize performance, and build sustainable habits that stick. As a certified strength and conditioning specialist and certified sports and nutrition coach, I've worked with everyone from busy professionals to athletes to those dealing with fibromyalgia to those dealing with just exceptionally heavy and busy work schedules to those that do not have any support from family or friends. A myriad of different scenarios and backgrounds and walks of life. And with that, the whole premise and focus of what we do is to coach people through those real world scenarios, the science and the real world challenges, rather, of what comes with improving your health through fitness and nutrition. So here I share more of those stories, the lessons that have been learned, and the systems that make long-term wellness possible. And that is the whole focus of what we do, is that our primary focus is longevity. And so that is not only just addressing the lifespan, the amount of time we get to live, but also the quality of those years that we get to live, commonly referred to as the health span. So, as I mentioned, last time we talked about making necessary adjustments. We have three different areas that made sense in the moment that I gave that Monday Lunch Live, which is our broadcast here. And so this time, I'm going to talk about how adjustments aid in your consistent progress. Adjustments, number one, aren't made one time and then that's it. Because oftentimes what happens is we might go, oh, I'm plateauing. I'm not able to push through it and lift any more heavy weight. I'm stuck at 50 pounds on my squat. I'm stuck at 15 pounds on my bicep curls, whatever it is, right? And I haven't figured out how to increase my weights. And then you find out, oh, I can change the way that I do my repetitions, drop it from 10 to 12 reps to 5 to 6 reps and build there. And all of a sudden, you're up to 100 pounds on your squats and 30 pounds on your bicep curls in 3, 4 weeks, and that is just a matter of what's going to get you progressing and moving forward, breaking through those plateaus. So you might make those adjustments and then get locked in. Life kind of gets going. January becomes February. February becomes March. All of a sudden, we're talking about spring. And of course, with that, summertime, and a couple months goes by, and all of a sudden it's May 17th, and you're like, what happened to the last 4 months? Or May 19th, let's say. What happened to the last 4 months? All of a sudden, we're looking at summer soon, and I haven't made any progress. Well, chances are, if you're doing the same routines, that's great. You're very consistent. But adjustment is a necessary piece to progress. It's a necessary piece that needs to be made while being consistent. And so it's not a one-time thing is my first point. And then number two, with making adjustments, you need to know how to adjust at the right time, what to adjust, and also know how to track it. So number two, what, how, and to keep track of it is very important with this process as well. Because if you are looking for a milestone, a goal down the road, which I think it's really important, we can talk about goals another time. Goals are really just the means to maintain an overall lifestyle, right? Because there's a difference between setting goals and setting what I said in my intro, systems. And the whole point of this is to set you guys up with systems that you can tap into on a daily basis where you don't even have to think about it. I know at this time I'm doing this activity. I know at this time I'm eating this food, and I know at this time I'm going to bed. And for those that are the wanderlust, the free birds, the you can't tell me nothings, the ones that I live my life how I feel in the moment. Okay, I would like to speak to you guys for a moment and say that that is your MO. That's the way you do life. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I will say that if you don't have a way to keep some kind of consistency, some kind of structure, some kind of effort towards your progression, moving towards where you want to be, you're going to stay in the same spot. The body is designed, despite our feelings, to respond to exercise stimulus, to respond to how we eat, and it will adapt accordingly. But if it's not consistent, then you won't see the results. And if that is something that doesn't match, maybe there's a better coach out there for you to kind of meet you in the space of how you feel in the moment. But I can tell you one thing that's been a detriment to our culture at large is the comfort aspect that we all seem to experience at some point in time. Our comfort is elevated and in certain cases put on a pedestal. And that is unfortunately the enemy to discipline. And discipline is the main ingredient to seeing success in your nutrition, your fitness. This stuff doesn't come, it just doesn't slap you upside the head. It just doesn't show up at your door. You got to go get it on a regular basis. So I just want to make that caveat, and that's not to single anybody out, because I know we're very much a performance based company. So a lot of that can easily trend towards those who are very performance based, very KPI, very A type, those kinds of things. That's not the demographic that I train entirely. I train people from all, like I said, all walks, all backgrounds, all aspects. And I think that takes me into number three, which is adjustment needs to match where you are in the season, not just where you want to go, but where you are in the season. I have several clients that put a lot of extra weight on their shoulders that's not necessary. They're setting up standards for themselves that are actually detrimental. If I don't do X, I can't do Y, but X never happens, so Y never comes, right? So if I don't do all these things because, and then they put their story and they attach it to it, they double down on what they're telling themselves in their mind, because I can't do X, or because I'm not going to do X to do Y before I do Y, but then I can't do X because A, B, C, sometimes D, E, F, G, and so on. Now you're set up for yourself an infinite loop of inconsistency, right? You're going to keep having the same challenges over and over again. They're going to take you away from the success you want to have. And a lot of times I just have to tell my clients, hey, you need to take this and let it go. It's not serving you. It's not doing anything for you. You just need to let it go. And if you can't let it go, then we need to find some kind of solution that's going to get you back to doing the work. Because if you keep doing this over and over again, you're going to keep the same state that you're in, right? The knee's not going to get better. The midsection's not going to get any leaner. The shoulder's not going to feel better. Your mental clarity and your energy is going to stay cloudy and low, right? Respectively. So that is, I think, what's really important is those adjustments need to be applicable to the season as well. We can't just look at the future and go, well, I need to do X, Y, Z to get to my future. I also have to make adjustments that are appropriate to the season at hand, right? So that kind of example I gave, there's many, is just what came to mind. And with that being said, those are the three things that I wanted to highlight today before I wrap up, is that adjustments aid consistent progress. So if you're not constantly adjusting, of course, we need to have some what shall I say? Some consistency, some normalcy in that consistency. So, repeating some weeks. Two, for those that like to keep things spicy and mix it up, right after 2 weeks, make some adjustments. And then for the other side of the spectrum, where people are like, I'll do the same thing for years, right? That's fine too. You have the same workout plan, increasing your weights gradually, have the same meal plan, eating the same food literally every week on end, and your breaks are birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, vacations. Great. You guys know that I talk about taking breaks often here on this channel, if you've been following me for some time. And with that being said, whichever side that you end up on, you still got to have some kind of regularity, right? I'll use a different word. to get you going where it is. Because if you start and then stop, the body's like, oh, no, we don't need to make any changes. It's going back to its lowest, to its state. The body is very well designed to keep its lowest, or to use as little energy as possible. And so that means if it's not working out, that means if it's not moving, walking, biking, hiking, jogging, whatever your favorite activities are, it's going to say, okay, I don't need to use those calories. I'm not going to spend them. I'm just going to hold on to them if you give them to me, especially. And then in the season and time where I do need them, I'll have them available, right? Unless, of course, you're just not eating at all. And that's obviously one of the scenarios. Then you have very little on your body, and it's the opposite direction. Metabolism is very high. I don't have any muscle or fat. And so now I'm working on building muscle so that my joints don't give out on me over time, that I don't lose the benefit of muscle, which is to keep that metabolism going when you get older, because it will eventually slow down, and to keep your cells refreshing, keep your blood sugar. I've met a lot of people who are, quote, skinny, dealing with blood sugar issues. So blood sugar isn't just directly tied to how much weight you carry. It's a common one, but it is tied to if you're exercising and if your muscles are regulating that blood sugar or not. So stagnant blood sugar is not a good thing in the body. You want to keep that moving. So anyway, there's many things I could say, but as I said, that was our 3 points for today for how adjustments aid consistent progress. Really looking forward to these. I've got one more in the series coming off the new year that'll get us into the 26th next week before we wrap up January. Hope you guys are having a wonderful 2026. Obviously, there's a lot going on right now. We are specifically focused on keeping people strong and mobile and active and ready in case you're in a scenario or situation where you have to respond quickly. You want your body and your mind to be able to do so. So if you're in a state and a place where, despite wherever you might be, as far as what's going on in our country and the United States here, and you want to have a mind and a body that can respond as you need it to, we are working on some different packages related to energy, mental clarity, to help you kickstart your fitness. And so we have a nutritional bundle set up to kickstart you over the course of 28 days. And with that being said, over those 28 days, we'll have programming, specifically workouts that you can do as well with that nutrition bundle to get you in a much better spot in the course of 4 weeks. And then thereafter, we'll look at workouts to continue, because 28 days is definitely not anywhere near enough for you to have some long-term success. It's just something to get you going and started. And then also maintenance nutrition to keep you going as well as you progress towards the higher long-term ideal that you would maintain. So that being said, this is Ryan Sanders with Project Fresh. It's always a pleasure to connect with you guys here on YouTube. And we're just slowly but surely working on bumping our numbers up on Instagram so we can get that live going there as well. So I hope you guys have a wonderful 19th. And also, this would be remiss without noting today is Dr. MLK Jr. Day. And I can say without any lack of certainty that we would not be able to do what we do here on this platform and with what I do in my business hadn't it been for his work. So despite any of the comments that are contrary to Dr. MLK and his legacy, which are all BS as far as I'm concerned, his legacy stands out quite well, and there's none that compare. Charlie Kirk is included in that. I do not believe that is even an appropriate thought, let alone a statement. So we'll stand 10 toes down on that very specifically, because what he did was preach directly from the Bible, and very specifically the reference that I'd like to point out for that in honor of Dr. MLK. And for those of you who are new here that aren't familiar with what we get into in the context of Fresh, Fresh stands for fitness, recreation, education, sanctity, and health. Sanctity partly relays into our walk in faith in Jesus Christ. We are not Christians, we are Christ followers. We want nothing to do with this idea of Christian nationalism and all that stuff, because that is idolatry at its fullest and finest. But what I do want to point you guys to, which applies to all of those who follow Christ, is Revelation chapter 7, starting at verse 9. And this is, I want to make sure that there's some context here. This is very specifically John, the servant of the Lord, who was called by God while he was exiled on the island of Patmos. He was exiled due to his faith. In chapter 7, starting at verse 9, this is one of the visions he was given, and it says, "After this, I saw a vast crowd, too great to count, from every nation and tribe and people and language, standing in front of the throne and before the Lamb. They were clothed in white robes and held palm branches in their hands. And they were shouting with a great roar, 'Salvation comes from our God who sits on the throne and from the Lamb.'" The Lamb is referencing Jesus Christ. So, what I want to point out in reference to Dr. MLK Jr. is from every nation, tribe, people, and language. So, I've heard even from the previous church we were at, people, Christians, believers saying, this country just needs to be monolithic, white people who speak English, and that's it. Everybody else can get out. That is not the that was not the conversation that Dr. MLK Jr. was bringing to the table, and his reference point, which I just read, Revelation 7:9, specifically 9 and 10, is very clear that every nation, every tribe, every people, every language is encompassing of every single individual that lives on planet Earth. So wherever you come from, whatever language you speak, whatever you look like, every single one of those individuals is going to be represented standing before the Lamb, shouting, "Salvation comes from our God who sits on the throne." So if you hear anything differently, that's not Christian. That's not in honor of what Dr. MLK Jr. was standing for. That racism would be absolutely eliminated, and the foundation of that would be based on what the actual Word of God says. So, just want to give that to you guys. Very important for us here at Project Fresh. It's a key foundation. It is the key stone of the foundation for us and what we do, because we were called to this by Jesus Christ the Lamb. So, just a refresher there. That being said, I hope you guys have yourselves a wonderful 20 or 19th, not the 20th yet, a wonderful month.